Here is the context of the president's reported comment that Joe referenced at the top of the show. A bipartisan group of senators, led by South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham and Illinois Democrat Dick Durbin, struck a deal on immigration. Reports on the deal said it would provide a decade-long path to citizenship for those in the DACA program and those eligible to apply. It would authorize $2.8 billion for border security, including $1.6 billion for the border wall, require green card holders to complete the citizenship process before sponsoring adult children, and cut the visa lottery program by 50%. Senators Graham and Durbin took the proposal to the White House, where, the Post reports, they were surprised to find immigration hardliners like Congressman Bob Goodlatte and Senator Tom Cotton. White House and Capitol Hill aides told the Post that aide Stephen Miller was concerned a deal proposed might be too liberal and made sure conservative lawmakers were present. When they discussed protecting immigrants from Haiti, El Salvador, and African countries, several Post sources briefed on the meeting claim President Trump said the following, quote, "Why are we having all these people from S-hole countries come here?" except he used the word. Trump then suggested that the United States should instead bring more people from countries like Norway, whose prime minister he had just met with on Wednesday. A Democratic aide confirmed the president's language to NBC. Two sources briefed on the conversation tell NBC that Trump also said, quote, "Why do we need more Haitians? Take them out." Someone else in the room responded, "Because if you do, it will be obvious why." So just to bring it full circle, Joe, a long way from 16 months ago in September in 2016, that clip we played coming in when the president was trying to win the Haitian American vote in South Florida.
A very long way indeed. And John Heilemann, let's break this down politically. We've already, of course, talked about how morally repugnant and how racist these comments are, how offensive it is that any elected leader, let alone the president of the United States, would make them. But let's talk about this as in a backdrop of where Republicans stand right now, facing historically bad odds, historically long odds. If you look at just about every ballot test, generic ballot test, they're getting pounded by at least 14 or 15 points by Democrats. You look at the election results in Virginia. You look at what happened in the state houses in Virginia. You look at what happened in the state of Alabama, that historic contest. You look at what happened in some historic local races from Pennsylvania across the country. And the Republicans are getting absolutely walloped in large part because of how offensive Donald Trump is and how he keeps playing to that 33%, thinking somehow that this is 1968 or 72 and there's a Southern strategy. There is no Southern strategy anymore. It doesn't even work in the Deep South. So what's the long-term impact on Republicans as the president continues to make racist remarks?
It's pretty bleak, I think, Joe. And you pointed out in the first hour, Alabama is maybe the most on point analogy here. We looked at the exit polls from Alabama. We were down there with the show. We saw that a large part of the reason why Doug Jones was able to win was because of the rallying, the enthusiasm, the energy among African-American voters in Alabama, particularly African-American women who turned out in record numbers, almost exceeded the levels in Barack Obama's election in 2008. The notion that Donald Trump reinforces his animus, his racially driven animus, his racism, that he demonstrates it over and over again from the Oval Office. And importantly, again, another point you made last hour, importantly, that he's not repudiated by anybody in the Republican Party. Does not have Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan standing up, not immediately after the meeting, nor as far as to this point on this morning, not 24 hours later, but 12, 14, 16 hours later. No one is standing up and saying this president's racism is repugnant. The Republican Party's complicity with Donald Trump is a huge political liability in an off-year election where Democrats are enthused, and particularly where what Democrats like to call the coalition of the ascendant, the non-white voters in America, they are particularly energized. These kinds of comments are going to rebound very much to the Republican Party's detriment, I think, unless people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and other Republicans figure out a way to start distancing themselves, although it may be too late for that now.
I think it's too late for that now, but they just simply refuse to show any moral courage when it comes to standing up to the racist comments made by the President of the United States. And we have seen this time and again. And Andrea, when you talk about this ascendant coalition, yes, it's Black Americans, it's Hispanic Americans, it's Asian Americans, it's the people who have been bolting away from the Republican Party for some time now, but you also have young millennials that are out there who now 2/3 of young millennials offended by Donald Trump and breaking away from the Republican Party. And this only expedites that. Is this why we see people like Ed Royce, who you've worked with on Capitol Hill, who you've seen on Capitol Hill, and so many other Republican chairmen and chairwomen are bolting and going home instead of having to run a campaign with Donald Trump on the top line?
Yeah, record numbers of important, veteran, seasoned Republican chairs and leading members of Congress leaving. As you know, over 30 members having decided not to run for re-election. Now, some of them term limited in their having the gavel, being the chairs, as Ed Royce was. But the fact is that, especially as we know in high tax states like California, they're facing a real headwind because of anger over the way that that issue was treated in the tax bill. But it certainly also signals frustration and fear that they are about to lose their power, that the House is about to turn because of all of these incredible statements coming from this president. There's no question that they're racist. They didn't even bother to deny it, and there's a lot of reporting out of the White House that they were happy with it because it reassures the base, which gets to what Eddie and others were saying, and John earlier, that this is exactly what he often does after signaling a couple of days ago with the leadership meeting and that televised meeting in the cabinet room, that he was willing to compromise, and you saw the blowback immediately. This also has real foreign policy implications, which we can talk about, because the decision not to go to London, which is clearly because they do not want him there, and there's a lot of pushback from the Brits after his retweeting of that racist anti-Muslim video, that the British government and maybe even the royal family does not want him there.